Hello everybody, Shrouded Hand here. If you've watched my videos for any length of time, you'll know that I'm a big fan of creepy folklore stories, and this is a completely new one on me. Someone on Instagram called Nate told me about it. It's quite a modern story, maybe it's more of an urban legend than a folklore. The legend of the Rat Man takes place in Southend-on-Sea, down on the southeast coast of England. More specifically, a certain tunnel on the Queensway underpass. Nate, the person who told me about this story, actually offered to go and get some footage for me, but to be honest, I didn't like the idea of someone potentially getting stabbed just to get me some footage of a tunnel. I don't know how stabby that area is, and I'm not trying to disparage Southend with that comment, but I read a few things online saying that tunnel can be a bit dodgy, so we're going to have to make do with the scant few photographs that I was able to find online. Now, there's a couple of stories about the origins of the Rat Man. The most gruesome one I've heard is about an unnamed homeless man who lived in the area. He was quite old and had difficulty walking. One winter's night, he entered that particular subway tunnel and took shelter, wrapping himself in his only possession, his blanket. That same night, a group of drunken teenagers came through the tunnel and saw the homeless man. In their drunken state, they decided to beat up the homeless man. They kicked and stomped him until he was unconscious, and then they stole his blanket. Lying there in the subway, battered and bleeding, the old man eventually froze to death. And then the rats came. Maybe they were attracted by the pools of blood on the floor, but they began to eat his body. When his body was found the next day, his face had been completely eaten away. And as the legend goes, his ghost still haunts that very tunnel. In some stories, you might enter the tunnel at night and see an old man shuffling along the underpass ahead of you, and then he'll turn around and you'll see that he has no face. In some versions of the story, he'll then curse you unless you drop money on the floor. Other people say that you'll enter the tunnel and you'll be completely alone in there, but then you'll hear a scuttling, scraping, squeaking noise, like rats coming towards you, and then the Rat Man will emerge, the homeless man now twisted into some sort of half-human, half-rat creature. Now, I've never been able to find a date for when this supposed homeless man was killed, nor have I found a date for the following story, the other version of the Rat Man origin. Some say the mayor of the town was known as a bit of an adulterer. He had many women around the town that he would visit. Eventually, his infidelity caught up with him and one of his lady friends fell pregnant. What she gave birth to was a grotesque, deformed baby. It had a long, rat-like face, long claws, and a tail. In an effort to get rid of the child, the mayor had secret tunnels built under the ground near his house, and in these tunnels was a cell in which the boy was kept. But apparently the child escaped, and now he roams the Queensway underpass. And if you look on a map, right next to the Queensway underpass is the Porter's Civic House and Mayor's Parlour. I guess it's plausible there could be tunnels under there that link up to the Queensway underpass. Nate says that there's recently been spray paintings of rats and stuff down there, and he just generally gets a bad vibe from the area. He said he's been looking into it and there's been some interesting sightings of the Rat Man in the underpass. I haven't managed to find too much online. I was having a look. Most of the stories I can find are of people saying when they were kids they would dare each other to run into the tunnel. Some of them would shout "Rat Man." I found one post on a forum from 2009 that said that someone was in that particular underpass. It was dark and there was nobody else around, and they heard a strange noise behind them. They say it was a mix between a gurgle and a hiss. It then turned into a hideous snarl that sounded almost human. They ran out of the tunnel and that was the end of their encounter. I don't know about the story, it's a bit wordy. it kind of makes it sound like they're just trying to write a creepypasta rather than telling a genuine tale. But I don't want to be too judgmental. Maybe they did encounter the Rat Man, but that's the only real encounter that I've been able to find whilst I've been looking into it. Now, often on these folklore videos, I do like to look at similar legends from around the world. There are a number of creepy tunnel stories that have echoes of this sort of legend. The closest I can find is Ernest Junction Tunnel, which is in Australia. Now, this used to be a train tunnel and eventually the line was closed, and now it's just a creepy abandoned tunnel. It's covered in graffiti and there's stories of devil worshippers going in there to perform strange rituals. But there is a tale of a homeless man who used to sleep in there who was stabbed to death one night, and his ghost still haunts the tunnel. And there's another legend about a little boy that haunts the tunnel. There isn't much more information about this particular ghost, but I don't know, I found it interesting that there's another story about a creepy tunnel that's haunted by a homeless person and the ghost of a child, similar to how there's two different legends about the Rat Man tunnel. There is another tunnel that has a story about a homeless man and a child. This is Sensabaugh Tunnel in Tennessee. A man named Edward Sensabaugh owned the lands that this tunnel went through. Now, I don't know if this story is true, but apparently one night Edward let a homeless man stay in his house. That night, the homeless man tried to steal some jewellery, so Edward confronted him with a gun. The homeless man grabbed Edward's baby daughter and used her as a human shield and ran out the house. He took the baby into the tunnel and drowned her. Now, people say that if you go into the tunnel and stand there in silence, you'll hear the sound of a baby crying, followed by heavy footsteps as if a grown man is approaching. There's even similar stories in the virtual world. Grand Theft Auto 4 is a good example. Now, I remember that game having loads of strange urban legends. Some people have claimed that while they were exploring the tunnels under Liberty City, they encountered a strange creature who they dubbed the Rat Man. Similar to the Rat Man of Southend, the Rat Man in GTA 4 is either said to appear as a regular hobo who can run abnormally quickly and stays out of sight, or he appears as a half-human, half-rat creature. People have searched for this Rat Man in the game's code, and as far as I can tell, they haven't found anything conclusive. But once again, we have the legend of a creepy tunnel and the homeless Rat Man. And I can kind of see how these legends might occur organically. These tunnels and underpasses often have an eerie feeling to them, especially at night, so it's natural that strange, creepy tales can emerge around these places. In some ways, the Rat Man tale is a take on the classic vengeful ghost story. It also has echoes of something like the Candyman, especially with kids daring each other to shout the Rat Man's name as if they were going to summon him. But who knows, maybe there really is a Rat Man in Queensway underpass. Hello. So once again, thank you to Nate for introducing me to this legend. I really enjoyed looking into this. I love weird British folklore, so yeah, this was right up my street. Thank you for watching, and a big thanks to everyone on Patreon for supporting the channel. Until next time, goodbye.